again for a new episode. So today we are going to introduce two lovely ladies that are going to bring us and enlighten us on education. So we have today Guylaine. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Bonsoir. My name is Guylaine Boutis and I'm the founder of the Knowledge Project in Leeds. Et je connais tout le monde dans la chambre. Nous travaillons ensemble. Communauté haïtienne en Londres.
Okay, and we've got Anne.
Okay, hi everyone. Anne McConnell. So I am of Northern Irish and Haitian heritage. And I grew up in Haiti, spent my childhood in Haiti until I was 10. But Haiti is part of my identity, part of my DNA. And I'm interested in all things Haiti. And I've been involved in lots of things.
Yes.
Okay, so this is what's going to happen. We're just going to have a chill conversation. Today is going to be about education. You are going to bring language, the Creole language. You are going to bring
education sovereignty.
Solutions, how we can improve, our lost education in Haiti. We're going to talk also, the issues. The fact that there's no school going on. So, Guylaine, what do you think? So, the main issue in Haiti in terms of education, what do you think is the main problem?
In my opinion, a Haitian education system is not sovereign, meaning it doesn't reflect the people in the country, the culture, the language. When you have a truly sovereign education system, you're a part of its building. You build it, you create it in your image, you create it in the image of the country, where you want the country to be. Let's say in 50, 60 years, we think our development plan for Haiti is going to be, we're going to focus on like technology, we're going to focus on science, chemistry, or whatever. Then you build that education system to reflect that. So
what's the expectation? What's the expectation?
In reference to how to do it? How to build it?
What do you expect to happen?
Well, I expect, what I expected to happen, especially during this period, the CPT and this temporary government, I expected people to branch off into these little commissions. We have commission on education, we have commission on health, we have commission on, law, and you have these professionals, these intellectuals and these scientists or sociologists, anthropologists sitting on the board trying to see how we can repair and reform the institutions, because I don't want to say that Haitian has no institutions. They've failed, and I'm not saying that Haitian has no laws or there's no, plan de route. There is. It's not respected and it's not regulated. So how do we reform the institutions so this doesn't happen? So this is what I expected.
Okay.
During this period, I expected people to be in little rooms and little committees, reforming these institutions. Yeah.
And do you have any project at the moment, the minute? Is there a project going on? And
Well, I don't have a project at the moment, but I think, just to follow up on what Guylaine has said, in a way, this is yet another opportunity for reform, for new beginnings in Haiti, because of the chaos that is happening, is the current situation, and we're trying to find a way out of that. But we've seen again and again, how that the opportunity doesn't get taken up. And I think this point you're saying about the institutions, that they exist, but the laws exist, but there's a lack of political will to implement them. There are not enough resources to actually make those things happen. We don't lack actually plans and so on. And you can see this, talking about education and in particular with regards to Haitian Creole, it's quite a strange personal connection that I find myself born into the situation whereby, I am of a Haitian mother and an Irish dad, and he himself was born in Haiti, of Irish missionaries. So that's how my connection with Haiti started. My grandfather went there in 1933, and within a short time, he went there as a pastor. He worked for the Methodist Church, Ormond McConnell, coming from the north of Ireland. And he was a pioneer. He was that kind of a mover and a shaker personality.
Some people might say, the fact that he's Christian and coming to the country feels like he's coming back and colonize us through, a different religion. Give us one of your fond memory of being in school in Haiti. Do you have a fond memory that you can share with us?
Oh gosh, that's an interesting question about being in school. I enjoyed school. I just have a fond memory of being in Haiti. I'll tell you what I loved as a kid was I could play outside. We could be outside all the time, and you're learning through your. There's this very strong sense of extended family. School was a little bit formal, I guess. Yeah. So maybe.
Did you get discipline proper?
Yeah.
For not doing your homework.
That's right. You had that threat. School was a serious thing, and you're hitting on an important thing here. Actually, education is number one priority for Haitians.
I have to say yes. I'm not gonna lie.
And this is why parents are prepared to save money, for their kids to get through school. So given that we give it such priority, it's so disappointing that the state doesn't support education in the way that...
it is part of our culture, I know that. I remember if I didn't know my timetables, oh my God, that was going to be the end of me. If I was missing one, it was going to be the end of me. So to know that now it hasn't going back to be the priority of the country, the priority of the government, to build schools, to have an actual program,
It is disappointing. And on that note, because I grew up in the Turks and Caicos, so I left Haiti when I was 2 years old. But I grew up around a lot of Haitian migrants. So for one instance, I know parents who are illiterate, but they make sure their kids were educated. Mm-hmm. The parent was over the child. Do your homework, and they didn't even know what was on the paper. So they forced them. They encouraged that sort of, because that's délivrance, through the education system. I remember a lady in the Turks and Caicos Islands. She had all her kids in Haiti, and she used to collect bottles. We used to recycle the bottles, the beer bottles and stuff. So wherever you see in the Turks on the side of the road this bag of bottles, you knew it was hers. And she educated all her 3 children. They all went to the US and they went to university through her collecting bottles. And that's a sacrifice these parents make. And on the back of what Anne was talking about, I think we need to address the language, the linguistical divide, in the education system, when it comes to the capacity of the state to educate more people in Creole than to force this language that create this dualism in society.
How do we impose Creole on the international level?
I'll let Anne talk about Creole initially, because I think she was going to introduce her granddad, because he was part of this building up of the Creole language. So I'll let Anne talk about it. Because I think it's important if we're going to talk about education, if we're going to talk about educating society, we have to talk about the language. And if I want to talk about education sovereignty, I have to talk about the language, because that's, I think I watched an interview, I can't remember her name, I'm doing her disservice, and she was saying if culture is a door, then language is the key. Exactly. And it has to be part of that conversation. You have people conversating and thinking in one language and then going to school and have to memorize in another,
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I'll let you talk about the Creole.
Absolutely. So I mentioned granddad. My grandfather came in 1933. So this was a very interesting time because it was a year before the end of the American occupation in 1934.
Yes.
And during this time, which saw under Jean Price Mars, So this kind of literary giant in the history of Haiti, he during the kind of those 19 years, the intellectuals kind of woke up to our African roots in a way that intelligentsia hadn't before. And you saw for the first time Creole coming into literature in a way to give it, but it was still kind of the stage of giving it a bit of color and so on. So he came to Haiti at a time when that kind of movement was happening. And just, so that was, if you like, on the kind of intellectual sort of level. But in terms of his work, he came as a missionary and he wanted to connect with the people because he was bringing the good news as he saw it. And so he very quickly realized that this should be in the mother tongue.
Yeah.
And the language was not yet written in a way that was accessible to adults, to ordinary people. So within a few years, he actually kind of got inspired by the way he had learned French, which was phonemically, and he thought Creole should be written with a phonemic approach. So each sound is represented by one grapheme, by one script, you know. And so he and as I said to you, he was a mover and a shaker, and he doesn't take no for an answer. He was somebody who was very driven for his mission, and so he determined to do it, and he got support actually from, obviously because he wasn't a native speaker, etc. So I suppose what I'm saying is that because you asked me about my memory of school. One thing I remember is rote learning.
Yes.
You know, that there was this tendency for us, you know, actually not so much in the school I went to, but this was common, that you could have a Haitian kid recite the history, and then you ask them, what does it mean? And they don't really know.
Yes.
Because they're reciting it in French.
Yeah.
And they could say it word perfect. But
they don't know what they're saying.
They don't really understand what they're saying. So this means that the learning isn't happening. Education is not happening. You're just, you know, so
repeating.
In fact, one of the things eventually, so the development of the writing system with this phonemic approach was something very controversial. This was happening in the 1940s, actually, early 40s.
Why has it become controversial?
It was very controversial at the time because people said, why do you want to... Pour qui ça a besoin écrire créole là? Vous comprenez?
Yeah.
Why do you need to write it? Pourquoi, you know, parce que nous parlons créole et nous n'allons à l'école pour français.
Yeah.
Alors, mais, you know, they don't, so we go to...
So we've got two languages, one that is seen as
inferior,
intellectual, and the other one that is seen as common.
Inferior.
I don't know what inferior about.
It is. In reality, it is inferior. You know, because when you go to the status. Because when I mean, recently I went to Haiti in 2017, 2018, and you go to the bank and the person is forcing you, you know, and refuse to respond to the other individual in Creole. You know, the guy in front of me was trying to ask her something, and she's responding in English, and you could clearly see he doesn't, not English, sorry, in French, and you could clearly see he doesn't speak French. So I got annoyed, and when it was my time, I said, you're either going to speak to me in French or English, in Creole or English, because I don't speak French. You know? And I think that she was a little lenient with me, because once you're done the Creole or Capoise, you're like an alien, you know?
I have to say, why is there such a difference between Creole Capois and Creole
Port-au-Prince Creole?
Why is there such a...
There are some regional
differences. I think the regional differences are everywhere, but you need to know the capital is in Pétion. When he took the Republic of Haiti, separated it, Pétion was more leaning towards French, you know? And his whole approach was French, right? So that whole identity, the Port-au-Prince, the capital, the link to the rest of the world was always French, you know?
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because one of the things that, against my granddad, was like, what preoccupied with what they call le passage au français, right? Okay, so they want kids. So okay, okay for Creole, but we need to learn French because French is the international language. French is internationally recognized. You're doing our kids a disservice. And actually, at the time, he wasn't looking for kids. He was actually targeting adults in the first instance. So this preoccupation with the passage au français. So even they criticize the choice. For example, in French, O-U-I is oui, okay? So Granddad wrote it W-I, oui, W-I-E, okay? They said this is an American. He wasn't American, he was Irish, number one. And so this is anglicized. This is anglicizing this is not helping us to move to French. But he's not interested in moving to French. He was interested in recognizing Haitian Creole as a language in its own right.
And
that it is a language.
Not to cut you off, but just to make that point on the anglicized, I recently, met someone from Port-au-Prince, and she was, schooling me about my Capoise accent, schooling a Capoise, we're more, we know ourselves. And so she's like, no, your Creole is different because of American colonization.
Wow, it's very interesting.
But was she right?
No,
I don't think so.
But did she know that she was wrong?
But
have you managed to correct her?
No, there are some people you can't correct because they know what they don't know.
Okay.
They don't know what they don't know.
But I think this thing is, of course, quite important in terms of the whole education. So in the same way, this preoccupation with French, it's also this concept that Creole is limited. Creole cannot somehow meet the needs of academic study.
But that's exactly what I said earlier. How do we get Creole on an international level?
You're coming from a point. You're coming from a point. From a state of mind where you're thinking it can't be, or it isn't. It is international.
It is actually.
What I'm.
You mean internationally recognized?
Or academic. You're talking from an academic point of view.
From an academic perspective, or if I'm going somewhere, I'm imposing to speak Creole. Let's say, for example, minister or finance minister, I'm talking Creole so that I've got someone that translates, since you don't know, the same way. When they are
Germans do it.
When they are in the UN, they all have like those little, speakers in their ears so they can understand. Therefore, if I'm presenting myself as a minister of finance, for example, and I'm going to speak to everybody in Creole, and you're always going to have, something in your ears that's going to translate it for you to in your preferred language. But the fact that it needs to be, how do we do to make it accepted on a level where that's the language that we're going to speak first?
I think it's not about people accepting it, it's about you doing it. So it has to be from a personal responsibility and a policy responsibility. So the state says, because I've seen people in UN speak in UN and they spoke in Creole, I think Dominique did it before.
Yes,
So Dominique did it before, and I think it's both personal and policy. So let's say the Haitian state say this is our second language. Instead of someone from the ministry going to UN or going to some sort of official and forcing this French that they clearly cannot speak, and not seeing how embarrassing this is when they could have just flowed in Creole, and have a translator. It's this lack of elite, lack of respect for the native tongue, something that we created. If you respect the revolution that we went through, that we've done, then you should respect the language that we created out of that revolution just as much,
Yeah, and I totally agree with you, Guylaine. But for example, things have moved on a lot since the 1940s. Okay, so once you've written a language, okay, this was the first step, to write the language. But the second step is literacy. How do you? So my grandfather got that, and he actually invited this American Frank Laubach, who happened to have done a campaign in another part, I think I should know, but in South Asia. And Granddad read about him and invited him because he had created this method, each one, teach one.
Okay, good.
And he was keen to actually have an alphabetisation, a literacy campaign in Haiti. And his work, you know, I should have the details of it, but I think mid-1940s.
Okay.
But this is very, very important in terms of having the political will. This was the first alphabetisation.
Okay.
We've had 8. Okay, we're probably on number 10. Okay, in terms of that, because you don't have the political will. So in fact, Haitian was not recognized on a par with French until the 1987 Constitution.
Yeah.
Okay. So this was a big step. But even before that, under Duvalier, but this was, I think, it must have been under Baby Doc, actually, 1979, that this ONAC, Office National d'Alphabétisation et d'Action Communautaire, I think, was an important body that, you know, recognized. So we had moved to this point, and in fact there were these two very important sociolinguists, Paul and Yves Desjean, who you know, really took this on and so on. But you know, bear in mind, my grandfather, he was part of a relatively small church. Never mind, in spite of we kind of punched high, given that, you know, so he kind of already established that. But I'm telling you, right from the outset, it was controversial. It was, you know, not accepted. Also, c'est en blanc, ouais, c'est mon en dehors. Okay, so there was that suspicion and all of that. But even within the country, you know, the linguists, you know, they, as I say, they had this preoccupation. So you had the orthographe Macona Laubach, okay, and then you had the orthographe Faublas Pressoir.
Oh, wow.
Before you then had the, I think, IPN, International, I can't, what it's called, IPN, which was finally the kind of, if you like, the compromise. But of course, I haven't mentioned, of course, Michel de Graaf. You know, he's the authority on this, and in fact, he has, if you like, further refined the orthographe to really take account of the more nuanced sounds of the language, and this is now, you know, established and recognized.
And he's maturing it, so it builds up every year. He's, like other languages, you know.
So,
you know, so there's been a lot of
work.
But what we come back to
is the state.
You even now have the Académie Créole Haïtienne. You have an academy who's we were checking this out earlier today, weren't we, Guylaine? And they have celebrated 10 years of existence. It was an uphill struggle to get them established and to have, you know, all the hurdles to be actually, you know, recognized by the state. But I can bet you they're under-resourced. You know, I'm not saying, you know, that there is more of a bilingual approach to teaching in Haitian schools, but we're not there yet, guys.
No, we're not. And I think
if you can have this experience in the bank.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I was going to ask. Is how many schools in Haiti are teaching in Creole?
Oh, we don't know. We don't know the percentage. We know for percentage-wise, we know that 85% of the schools are private. So if you're building a nation, like we're talking, going back to education sovereignty, if you're building a nation, you can't have 85, and when I did my research for my master's thesis, 85% of the schools were private, and more than half of those were not registered with the state. So the state has no control, no regulatory control over these schools. They don't know what they're teaching. There's no like unified curriculum, you know?
Yes.
And there's no, you know, body that's I'm sure there is, like, you know, I don't want to say that there isn't, but it's not working, not a working regulatory body. And then there's no set curriculum or training, teachers training, you know, that the government, the state says, this is what I want you to train as. Train in Creole, you know, train to teach in Creole. And this is the authority to train teachers. And they get the certificate. This is the state's authority to train teachers. There's no sort of, you're losing that, and then anybody from high school who wants a job can go and get hired in a private school and say they're teaching, so nobody knows what type of student is coming out of this school, you know. And then you have the sitting, the exams, it's all about memorization, like we said, so there's no testing body that is culturally, you know, you're building a nation, everything has to be culturally Haitian. Like, what is it that we want out of the individual by the time they finish primary school? What is it that we want out of the individual by the time they finish high school? What type of employment we want that person to be able to get if they can't go to university?
Let's say you are education minister. What's your first step?
If I was an education minister, you don't have much power, do you? Because everything's at the top, right? So if I was an education minister, I would campaign so that we can have a commission on reforming the education system.
Okay.
I would campaign so that we can have a commission, historians, sociologists, therapists, students, teachers, you know, sit on a commission to look at what we have now and how can we recreate this in the image of Haiti, the Haitian. How can we create the Haitian, right?
Yeah. I think that's important, Guylaine, but it's also resources, you know, it's what priority are we giving this? And this is what I mean about this kind of contradiction, where we know for Haitians, education is the number one thing.
But the
people sacrifice everything.
The state does
but somehow, how come 85%, I think it's probably even in the 90s, that privatized?
And the conflict of interest. You have ministers owning schools.
What does it mean to be Haitian, though? What does it mean?
That's something that we need. That's a conversation that we're supposed to be having in this interim government. That's a conversation that we were supposed, you know, the nation building, the reforming institutions. This is the conversation that we need to have.
Because if the government redefined the idea of being Haitian and the people can't
not redefined, because we don't know if it was ever defined. Remember the nation building process that Dessalines wanted to have, it was stopped in its tracks. And Christophe had a whole plan. You know, we can go back if they want, if they have this commission, we can go back to Christophe's educational plan, because he had a plan for everything. You know, his kingdom, he had a plan for everything. We can go back and see what that meant and see how we can
Is it documented?
So see how we can fit that into the modern, you know, country that we have here and fit into the development plan. So we first need to have a development plan. I'm not saying that we don't. There's a lot of things on shelves taking dust. You know, what is the development plan for Haiti in 50, 60, 100 years? So from that development plan, then you know, okay, we need education, university specializing in science. We need university specializing in engineering. We need agriculture universities. And this is the department, maritime department. We need training schools for, you know, that comes, all of that information comes from the development plan. So you cannot create a curriculum for your education system without knowing what the plan is. So we need to sit down, but on the table again.
I agree with that, Guylaine, but I think you're dealing with a country, you know, with a legacy of trauma, okay? So we do come back to this question of identity and what your mother tongue gives you. And as I said, you know, the Creole is established as the national language, but I think in the psyche of ordinary Haitians, even now, I'm telling you this from the 1930s, even before, you know, as I say, it was a wake-up call with the American occupation. Okay, we're 120 years on from this now, and I can't believe this kind of these anecdotes that you hear about. You know, somebody patronizing or discriminating against somebody in their own country, speaking their own language in the way that you're saying. So this still happens. Maybe it's isolated cases. I don't know.
It's not isolated. Isn't even, you have I went to a hotel in Pétionville, and the guy, he owns the hotel. He's sitting there speaking to me in English and Creole, but this lady that's cleaning the room, she's forcing this French. I don't speak French, right? I understand. But why are you forcing yourself to put these things together?
But what was her response to that? Why did she force her to speak French?
No, because I think it's a status.
Yeah.
The patron, ou parle avec patron, ou doit parler en français.
Of course.
It's a status. It has nothing to do with reality. It's a status. And I want to go back to investment, the state against the nation, right? The investment in education. When I did my master's degree and I looked at health and education, from Duvalier, Papa Doc, there's like 3% of the budget went to education. 2 baby doc. No, it never changed. 3%. And the new schools that were built by Americans, and sometimes they weren't even populated with teachers. They were just bâtiments sitting there and on the air, and nobody used them. So when I always get surprised when I see people from that era, nan Dessalines, nan Papa Dog, bagay yo te bien, t'allé l'école, nou te gen bon éducation. What? You talking about your family? Or you're talking about the country? You're talking about your household, your area, where you live, or you're talking about the entire country.
It feels like this, but in general, most of the generation felt that they were living an amazing life. They were going to school. They had their uniform.
Not most of the generation. It's the people that have the loudest voices. It's the people that have access to microphones. And those are the people that had access to schools.
To power.
To power. They had proximity to power. So you ask yourself, was your uncle or your auntie Tonton Makut that allowed you to have that safety? It is safe, but what about the children? My mom grew up in Okap, and she said, "Même crash ou pas de crash à terre, c'est couvrir pour chien pas ouais." Duvalier kind of destroyed the entire social system where people were afraid of each other, terrified of each other. And Tonton Makut yo fait ça yo vle. So what country were you living in when you disregard, and this is the disregard we see over and over again. So my reality is the prominent reality, and I disregard everyone's reality. So the paysan, or I'm from Pétionville, I had, I don't understand what these people are doing to the country. We used to have clean streets. Yeah, but that's what you're disregarding the reality of people who are born, died, got married, never had a birth certificate, never had any contact with a police officer from their town, never had protection from the state. You're disregarding their reality, and they are 90% of the population. And they're 90% of the population.
I mean, there might be a lot of people that might disagree with what you are actually stating right now. They're gonna say no. As far as I'm concerned, my life was absolutely great. We felt that even if we were into a so-called dictatorship, our life was much better than most people, because when people were coming to Haiti, they felt safe. They could go to the movies. They could travel. People would come from abroad. Tourism was booming. They have access to education. They have access to water. They have access to a lot of things.
I'm not denying that reality. I'm just saying that this Haiti was better is denying the reality of the 90% that we're living in poverty, absolute poverty.
90% is a big number, that you are saying right
because
now.
Because the paysan, why do you think we have those bidonvilles in Port-au-Prince? That's because Papa Doc got people from the paysan to live in these areas to do the industry.
Well, again, neglect of agriculture, neglect of the paysans. So you have this exodus from the outside or whatever, from the countryside towards to build up these slums. That meant that when the earthquake struck in 2010, you had 3 million. You had 4 times the number of people that Port-au-Prince could sustain living in Port-au-Prince. You know what I mean? And so the crazy death toll, also the fact that those shacks had been allowed to be put up the hillside and all of that.
No regulation,
nothing.
Because
so
he needed that
always,
labor. He needed that labor. You know, the percentage that he was getting off the Dominican sugarcane industry, you know, by pumping Haitians over there. You know, I think what we witness now with the governance of Haiti is this. I'm happy I've experienced this Haiti, and I'm neglecting the other Haiti that other people live in.
Yeah.
So when they get into these positions of leadership, they disregard the person that's in need, because, you know, I'm happy my kids go to school. You know, I live in a house, I have electricity. Et vous en pour l'autre haïtien yo, you know, égaré à sortir en dehors même seatbelt li pa kon mette. You know, that they don't deserve. We have this elite and this elitist mentality that the rest don't deserve, you know, a functioning state.
Yeah.
You know, a state that works for them, that they don't deserve access to birth certificates. They don't deserve access to health.
But that also creates, you know, what kind of expectation do you have as a citizen if that narrative is that's what you're born into, and you don't expect anything from the state.
Yeah.
You know, you don't expect.
You have people and they are living outside of the state system.
And they're relying on those remittances from outside to survive.
What's the current plan? What's the current plan for education right now in Haiti?
Oh my God! Where do you start?
There's a plan for anything.
What? Yeah.
I
Seriously.
mean, we have to start somewhere.
Listen, if there was a plan, the gangs are coming over, and after they burnt the first school down.
Yes.
If there was a plan to protect any education system, healthcare system, the forces that be would have been protecting those sites.
Yes.
They would have strategically protected those sites because it was important. So the fact that one after one, the libraries, the schools, the hospitals are being burned down, and people are sitting there collecting their paycheck from the gouvernement, you know, means that they don't care. There is no plan. Because if there was a plan, the first time it burned down, they would have protected the rest. But they didn't, you know, because Haïtien résilié.
Yeah. But this is partly, Guylaine, what I was saying, it is this trauma. How do you this psyche, how do you, shift the narrative to a people that see that their language is validated, is actually respected, you know, and actually can get them somewhere, you know, because it's still, even though maybe we're, you know, as I say, we have a written language. I mean, something that I think is, I don't know, it's a little bit of a symbolic thing. But you're coming into Haiti and you have to fill in your immigration, and it's in Creole and English.
Yeah.
So I think that's quite cool in a way, but it's maybe a small thing, but when it comes to the real domains of power, we haven't got there yet. I think.
Yeah.
You know, when we talk about trauma, I realized, you know, when I was younger, and I was starting to talk Creole with my little brother. And straight away my dad said, hey, no. We don't speak Creole, we speak French in the house, right? It's only later on when I was meeting with other friends from the Caribbean that we took back our identity. And also we didn't want any of the others to understand what we were saying to the others. So we had our little codes and
because it was cool. It was something secretive. I mean? It was something that you owned.
Yes, it was the discovery of something that was kind of taken away from us, from our own parents. And we were like, you know, we didn't understand, and they would know what would be ashamed of a language that you speak with our moms, you know what I'm saying? So why is it good for you and not for us, you know? And, you know, we took it back anyway. Now we speak Creole all the time, you know, even if we have a different accent, but we are so proud of being able to.
It is a sense of pride, and it goes. It's like a circular thing. It goes back to that nation building thing, because and even when we look at Vaudouisant, Vaudouisant needs to be taught in schools as like a philosophy, a way of life, because that's where your cultural identity is going to come from.
It has to be redefined.
Not the boko doing medicine thing. It's the idea that the lakou system, the patage, it's a way of life, and we've disconnected from that, and it should be taught in school as a philosophy, a way of life. And you go over to the neighbor's country. You're talking about fierté des langues. You take a Dominican person or any Spanish, person. Their child would speak their language before they speak English.
Yeah, 100%. You see,
the parents do not refuse to speak. If they live in an English country, the parent would refuse to speak English to that child.
Whether you are Polish,
you're gonna learn it in school anyway. Why can't you? And people.
So many nations. Impose their own language,
because that's who you are. That's your fallback.
Exactly.
And then you end up seeing a lot of people, like the Haitians. You don't have a fallback. Where are you gonna fall back to? You don't care about what was your foundation. You don't care about it enough to make sure that it's strong. Have your feet planted at home and your eyes seeing the world, but your feet isn't planted at home, and you don't have a home because you've never invested to take pride. That this mountain is mine, this tree, this mango is mine. How do we categorize the mango? How do we make it into confetti? How do we create our own industries because we love what we have at home? And that's what everybody else does, and I think that's what we needed to stop. And we thought maybe after the earthquake, it would have been an opportune time for Mateli to stop. Stop and rebuild.
Yeah, but this is again what I said. Yet another missed opportunity.
Yeah, another missed opportunity. And then this is so embarrassing. I think this CPT is so embarrassing because they're doing it in your face.
Yes.
We have technology. We know where the money is going. We know how much money they get paid. We know they put their wife and their girlfriends in the diplomacy. We know it's in our face, and they have no shame. It's as if they don't care about the country. So going back to education, how do you get the citizenry to care about the country? It's the education.
Yeah.
It's how you educate.
What I wonder is, within the houses, within every Haitian house, do we have a similar type of education? Because I'm sure in different nations, when they go into they might have little variations, but what's the foundation that we can certainly find in all those families?
Well, I could only speak from my perspective and my family. I'm Capoise, okay, and I'm from Okap. My mom's from Okap, and she moved. She went to the Turks and Caicos. She was 14 when she went to the Turks and Caicos, and then she happened in her 18, 19. She went back to Haiti and she had her 3 kids. Right. So when I was 2, I went back to the Turks and Caicos again. So what she taught me in the home was because during the 80s, 70s were okay. During the 80s, 70s, I was going to primary school. There weren't any roads. We were walking on gravel, My mom helped beat rocks in the Turks and Caicos, working for the UK government to sell gravel to build the roads in Blue Hills, right? So that's the Turks and Caicos I grew up in. There was one truck in the whole sector, in Blue Hills. So what she taught me is that, pa kite moun sa yo fè fwèkan avò, paske le yo te kon ap van lambi avèk poisson la kay nou, magistra ou kap te kon mette yo nan prison pou piate, pou san mayo. She instilled in me that pride. Pa kite yo djou sol paye. And I took that with me, because when I was in primary school, I remember this boy was chasing me, throwing rocks. You effing Haitian, go home. And I was running from the rocks, but I said, you effing TI. It doesn't hurt me when you say it. Because I already had that foundation in me. So you couldn't, and when my friends, who had half Haitian, half TI parents were reluctant to speak Creole, or, I didn't have that problem. I didn't care. I was proud. You couldn't take that from me, because that's mine. And it built in me this search. I wanted to know everything, about Haiti. I wanted to know voodoo. I wanted to know Creole. I wanted to know everything. I didn't want to be in a room where somebody said, "Oh, Haitian is this." No.
The pride of being Haitian, I feel it's recent. The pride of being Haitian, I feel it's recent because
I think you're generalizing because, like I said, from Okap, we're Christophian, so we come from the Kingdom of the North, so we have a different sort of attachment to history and to pride,
sense of identity.
Right.
Yeah, a sense of identity.
I'm going to.
Même que Villa Salle, parce que quand on a dit Villa Salle, but nous avons fierté.
I'm going to talk to the minority who didn't feel proud of being Haitian, because even in popular song, even Wyclef has a song saying pour qu'ils soient perdus ou haïtiens.
Parce qu'ils sont pression,
exactly. So he even expressed in his song.
But why?
Exactly. So a lot of Haitian unfortunately did not find a way or the connection with all the Haitian to be able to say, yeah, I'm proud.
Or the strength,
to say yes, I'm proud to be Haitian. I never felt that I had to hide it. I hide it. I never had the feeling I had to hide it, because obviously when I was my friends were most Caribbean, so we never really. The idea of being Haitian was not in question. What was in question, more my skin color was more in question, but not my
your nationality, your roots,
or your heritage,
Your heritage.
So it is strange that now, now that people know the history, understand with internet and everything, that there's a certain idea of a pride of being Haitian, and people are really. Rooting to make sure that academically is taught everywhere. You know what I'm saying?
But it started with that second generation. I would say it started with the second generation American Haitians, like Wyclef. Like the people that got into the music industry, that got it. It started with them. Once they started raising the flag, and then you have the diaspora with the Flag Day. My organization, Haitian Heritage Foundation in the Turks and Caicos, was the first Haitian organization and the first one to have Flag Day. So
Haitian Flag Day.
Haitian Flag Day.
Yeah. The one you did in.
No, this is a remake. My first organization was in the Turks and Caicos, Haitian Heritage Foundation.
All right.
So we were the first to do Haitian Flag Day, and then suddenly you people inviting Wyclef over, and then suddenly they're inviting Jacques Ito over, So it became like, whoa. With the movie, with Wyclef and all the movie stars and the singers waving their flag, they had this sort of anchor. They could relax because, hey, that person is not afraid.
Could I maybe say something here? Just making me think in terms of pride, because my mother is from Haiti, and you can see that she's from mixed heritage herself, but she's a Haitian woman. She speaks French and Creole. That's what she was brought up with. And I can tell you that I've always had a very strong sense of having this proud history, coming from Haiti, and that absolutely comes from my mother. And I'm just interested to hear that maybe because of being in the diaspora, in a way that, I grew up with a very strong sense of extended family in Haiti. And as I say, on my Irish side, my grandfather happened to have done this work on Haitian Creole. And I think, I'm just a kind of a little bit surprised that you're saying this. But at the same time, I shouldn't be at all surprised, because the narrative you would be getting all the time when Haiti hits the news headlines,
it's always negative.
A disaster. It's a disaster. So no wonder. I mean, that would be good to look at the way that Haiti is portrayed. But it's so destabilizing.
Who wants to be a part of that mess?
Who wants to be? Like my sister married a Haitian. They had one son. And she had to flee Haiti, actually. He was one. And I can tell you, I mean, perhaps why he wants nothing to do with Haiti is because of the way Haiti is kind of portrayed. I think there's an aspect of that.
Yeah.
And to me, I just can't stand it because it's such a misrepresentation of the country.
100%.
And but it's this what comes back again to this language issue that you don't respect because of the way it's talked about, the way it's referred to, the status. The status of the Haitian Creole language, or the status of the people, the monolingual. Let's say the monolingual speakers of Haitian is reflected in the status that they have in their own country. And that's and we still and I can't. I mean, it again. I shouldn't be surprised, but it's terrible.
It is.
That
you can understand it, and
when you dissect it, you can understand it.
And I think in the US, he was a little bit more violent towards
both
Haitian.
people in the Turks and Caicos as well.
Yeah.
Both people, HIV/AIDS epidemic. So and poverty is a disease. Poverty is one of those diseases that everybody they think if they're standing too close to you, they'll catch it, right? So they try to distance themselves from poverty, and one of the ways of distancing yourself from poverty is trying to bring awareness, blaming the poor.
Absolutely.
Blaming
I remember
the poor
going
for their
to Martinique and Guadeloupe where we have Haitians. I was working for an organization and they needed somebody who spoke Haitian Creole because the people there, they couldn't, they were, it was actually, they wanted somebody to go on the trip that spoke Haitian or at least French, because the guy who would normally have gone was Spanish speaking. Anyway, so I said, yeah, I'm happy to go. So it was actually, where it was Saint Martin, it was Anguilla, it was Martinique, it was Guadeloupe. Those were the countries where they had a Haitian diaspora, okay? And it was actually working for a church organization, and they were reaching out to people there. And of course, the Haitians are living in the poorer areas. They were, struggling, but working obviously very hard. They're a part of that whole, as I say, diaspora that their families depend on remittances for. But when I said, so where are you going next? I said, I'm going to Haiti. They're like, what? You're going to Haiti? Why do you want to go there? This was like, it's like a pariah in the Caribbean.
Yeah,
it's crazy. The other day, I was awesome to my mom, and she reminded me of an episode of Dynasty. I don't know if you remember this show.
Yes.
Oh, Dynasty. It's a show that was at the
like a soap, the first soap opera series.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And at the time, there was an episode where one of the daughters would go to Haiti.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And at the time,
it was vacation hotspot.
It was a hot spot to go to Haiti. It was, if you go to Haiti
and you get divorced. People used to go to Haiti just as quick divorce. Like
it was amazing. Everybody would go to Haiti. It was the paradise of the time. And to now having this idea that it's no longer, or it's not even spoken to in the same way that recently it was in the 80s, not so long ago. It's I don't know. It's a shame for me. It's a really shame that you go from being a paradise to
mismanagement, isn't it?
But honestly, this is the legacy. This is our history, isn't it? That hidden history, which we try very hard to kind of bring to light, and we have a lot of friends, trying to do the same thing. What I mean by hidden is that the superpowers at the time didn't want the publicity of a black nation, of a successful revolution. It's not that there weren't other revolutions, but this was a successful one. It was a very important one because Haiti
it destroyed an academic system that they relied on to build their nation.
It was absolutely so. It was about economics. So it was the pearl of the Antilles, la perle des Antilles. Haiti was referred to. So it was a very rich nation, and we had to pay the price. the government at the time eventually, agreed to pay the indemnity to the former colonizers.
Set you back,
decades. And people, you see what I mean? So in other words, I guess what I'm saying, that story is not given much profile. Mm-hmm. And so, to the ordinary person, you see Haiti hit the news headlines, basket case economy, incompetent government, corruption, nothing about, how Haitians are so successful in spite of all that they get.
It must be difficult.
The survival against all odds.
If you do a curriculum, and you will have to make the parallel that the fact that, the European failure is the Haitian success. So how do you make the parallel to that? How do you teach children that, because obviously when you are educating, you're not only educating one nation, you're educating, the entire world, you're educating Chinese, Asian, wherever. Mm-hmm. And to make them understand that the success of Haiti is the failure of the European, it doesn't bring them into a bright light, because when we learn about history, usually we learn about history that has been written in a way that show always the bright lights, never really, even for, Germany, we rarely hear that actually Hitler, as an example, brought the economy back to its peak, the Germany economy back to its peak. You rarely, we don't even learn that in school. We learn about his, his failure and, all the horrible thing that he did. But you're never
history belongs to the victors, but unfortunately in Haiti's
case. What I'm saying? So how are we gonna? That's a big problem.
Unfortunate example, I would say, but
I
get it.
Okay, I'm using this example because this is what is taught in schools, in European schools. So if we are building a curriculum that will discuss and teach children about the history of Haiti, they will have to have a part of it that says this is what the European said, this is what the European haven't been able to contain,
because it's a global world. They were, they I mean, one of the things with Haiti is that Haiti got its independence in a slave economy. Mm-hmm. Everyone around, the British had slaves, the Americans had slaves, the Spanish. It was the only one within that region in the Western Hemisphere. Do we have to include that in a curriculum?
Do we have to include?
Well, you have to, if it's according to the angle you're trying to. If you're looking at it from a political economy angle, so they destroyed the economy of the day, right? Yeah. They made them realize that human trafficking is not going to be profitable anymore. Yeah. Because people are not going to continue, because it's a domino effect, right?
That's so earlier you were saying that, the education of Haiti has to be cultural, okay? But if we include its connection to Europe, to which point can we keep it cultural? Can you keep it like extremely Haitian, or
it's a mix? You're gonna have it is going to be. It is going to be. If you teach Haitian history, you're gonna start from Tiano, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna start from pre Columbus, right?
Yes, pre-Columbus.
Pre-Columbus, and then you go to today, right?
Yes.
But then you cannot speak about Haiti, the Haitian Revolution, without speaking about the reason why the slave trade happened, or the reason why the Haitian Revolution happened, because there's so much going on in the island.
That's what I'm saying.
They, the French were really greedy, so they had maybe 5 slaves to one, one blanc. So they created this atmosphere for this revolution to happen. It was like, it just erupted.
It was bound to happen.
It was bound to happen because you can't mistreat people and then have them in more numbers than you, right? So you have to talk about that relationship. You have to talk about the French Revolution because the literature and what was going on, and those elites, Haitian elites and the mulatto class, were being educated in France. Christophe's son was in France. Toussaint children were in France. They're all educated in France. So whatever was happening in the city, the center state, is actually happening in the periphery. Because it just just goes back. The information is fed to the periphery. So Haiti is gonna know what's happening. The U.S. during our revolution, the U.S. still traded. There were Jews still trading in Okap. They were still trading. American people were still trading with Okap, even though they had like this sort of goat gun diplomacy, they call it, like pay or we'll send the U.S. Navy type thing, diplomacy, right?
Yes,
even though they had that, they still traded. There was still things going on. They still had an ambassador from the U.S. to Haiti. But there was still, you can't isolate those things.
Yeah. But I think I totally agree with that. But what you're kind of detailing there are the various influences, going right back to the Taino and the Arawak, the pre-Columbus and so on. But I think for me, that is the richness of being Haitian, okay, is that you have these mixed heritage, really. I mean, this is what makes it. In fact, Creole itself comes.
It's a mixture of language.
Yeah, it's a mixture of language, yes.
So you have the dominant, if you like, economic, political French dominance, but the syntax is drawn from West African languages.
Yeah.
And something I omitted to say was, I mentioned my grandfather came a year before the end of the American occupation, 1934. In 1936, Suzanne Comher-Sylvain, who was a sociolinguist. I mean, she was an ethnographer, if I've got the right terminology. But she had just come back from basically doing an empirical study to look at the syntax of the origin of Haitian Creole and kind of established that the patterns and the various features of Haitian came from that language, because up to then, I mean, I think it hadn't been done in a kind of academic way, in the way that she did it, and so actually, I think that shifts, things. So I suppose I'm mentioning that because it puts the language on a different footing. So what I'm saying is that, in a way,
culture isn't isolated.
Yeah, it isn't. It's made up of these different influences, and somehow there's something about having that certainty of where you come from, and we can see it in our kind of the discrimination that you have from within a racist situation, this even isolating people. But I don't have the luxury, actually, because I am from different so-called races in one body, so I can't split myself up. But the thing is that, so therefore, in order to make sense of my identity, I can see that it's only really in embracing these differences, and in a way, Haiti is like that. And I think, going back to Dessalines, and he saw that actually. He wanted the country to be open to all. All
who the oppressed, once you set foot in Haiti, you're Haitian.
Exactly.
Christophe did the same thing, because Christophe used to pay the boats to bring the people in. But when you talk about it, when I go back to the whole idea of teaching Vaudouisant as a sort of philosophy, when you're building a nation and you're trying to create that national identity, you have to have that moral backbone, right? What is it that the lenses that you see the world in has to be Haitian? So what is that Haitian lens? So that is what we're trying to decide. How do we create it,
establish.
What is your idea of what the world is, what Haiti is, what family is? Those are things that we need to settle down and say, because we have this dual society where we're fighting between cultural heritage and Christianity, or Catholic and Voodoo, or French and Creole, and we need to settle.
But really, guys, for me, that's it. We are part of this mixed.
No, it is a mix, but we need to say that our idea of Haitianness comes from these set of principles. And what are these principles? Where are they coming from?
Is Haiti forever bound to ideology called freedom, or spiritual freedom, or physical freedom? Is Haiti for the hundreds, 200 years will always be connected to freedom, or because if we see Haiti through a certain lens, it means that once we are Haitian, it means that our mission is to free the world.
And that's not free the world, but then that is the bedrock of who we are. We're the liberators. We're the first, It's just like America going around and saying, I mean, what do they say?
I don't know what they
democracy.
say.
Freedom and democracy, right? So when you see American, you know what America means. When you see the eagle, you know what it means. You see the flag. So the Haitian identity needs to stem from what we are in the world. When we gave birth to Haiti, what did it mean, and what did it mean to everybody? Like when you talk about Dessalines, who actually wanted all oppressed people. So Haitian wasn't black. Haitian wasn't white. Haitian was everyone that is suffering, that is oppressed. And they're Haitian. Like neg, Haitian.
Doesn't mean.
Yes. Yeah. So and neg. So when we talk about noir. Noir in Haiti, and we talk about black and white in Haiti.
Blanc, foreigner.
Yeah, and I keep telling people it doesn't mean the same thing. Black and white doesn't mean the same thing in other countries. In Haiti, Bahamian or Barbadian can be a blanc. As long it's a class, it's an economic class. You're a foreigner, you're blanc, and you're neg when you're Haitian. So you don't have to. It's not a skin color. It's an economic status, and it's a foreigner. So when Haiti was created, everybody that's Haitian was neg, and everybody outside was blanc.
To change that ideology is going to be a lot of work. Because there's a dominant ideology.
Education.
Yes. So now give us. Because I know you came with solutions. Obviously you came with solutions. Give us.
Oh my God, we went to this conversation. Let me go back on my list.
Give us a solution. That perhaps could give us an idea of what Haitian should have been a long time ago.
What Haitian should have. Oh my God. I don't think I have the right. Once I was never educated in Haiti, and everything I've done is through, my idea of national, of nation building comes from my education in development. My undergrad was international relations and development, my master's degree, migration and development. So it's from development and my love for institutions. So that's where I'm coming from. I'm not coming from on the ground knowledge, and Anne has more on the ground knowledge because she's worked with organizations and things like that than I do. But what I think is that we need, outside of a functioning state, outside of government running a country, we need a commission to redress, to examine, to interrogate the institutions.
Be part of that commission.
Yes, they have to be. They have to be. Our expertise come from everywhere. When you look at what happened during the earthquake and all the mental health issues we had and all the trauma healing, expertise can come from anywhere. It doesn't have to be Haitian or Haitian diaspora. It can be friends of Haiti. We use expertise to bring in what we lack. Right? There needs to be commission interrogating all these different aspects of Haitian society that need redressing. Outside of, you can have a government, but you need to have these commissions. You need to have intellectuals, historians, sociologists, what did you say? Ethnographers. You need to have linguists. You need to have all those people around the table.
Social scientists.
Yeah, working in the background. And it doesn't have to be the state. It can be commissions working, and that's what I, like I said from the beginning, that's what I expected from the transition government. But they're functioning like the government. Which, they're a transition, they're supposed to
That's a massive team to be funded by the government
to get paychecks.
Well, all those data that needs to be gathered, I think within the course of 5, 10, 30 years, because,
funded research, I mean,
it requires a lot of funding to do that.
Yeah, it requires, and it's not that we don't have it. There's ways that the state can make money, because I keep looking back at the Turks and Caicos and the way the Turks and Caicos has used migration and immigration to fund a lot of their scholarships and a lot of their programs. There's no reason why we have over 500, Clinton said, NGOs or something in Haiti.
It's the Republic of NGOs.
Yeah, the Republic of NGOs. Why aren't they paying anything? Why aren't they paying work permit? Why aren't they paying residency permit?
Yeah.
Why aren't they paying registration fees? Why aren't they, there's so many ways to make money. La douane. Why is douane privatized? Why isn't traffic, regularized? There's so much ways a state can make money. I think what we've had in Haiti is a lack of governance. And a lack of initiative, a lack of will to govern, We
could always come back to this main
it's a lot
issue.
to talk about, eh?
We'll come to this main issue, the fact that we don't have the politicians that
we need, that we deserve,
that can bring Haiti to a certain level.
Yeah.
And to get rid of them, it's going to take more than...
blacklisting, it's easy.
It's either a revolution, a peaceful. I don't know if it's peaceful.
I don't
revolution
think we need that.
Can be possible, but if the people, through their voice, actually voice their desire to have an effective change in the government, that plan, that commission that you are suggesting could be, could be put in place. It is a shame that we don't have the politician, the government that we deserve, that can
volonté.
It would be nice, it would be amazing, but now
we don't need a violent revolution. There's soft revolutions, whereas academic revolutions are intellectual revolutions.
Yes.
And there are things, and I keep telling, one of the sickness that we have in the diaspora is that people think to help Haiti I need to run for office. It's a maladie, right? I need
they all want to be president.
You don't have to. You can go into community level institutions and repair them. What we have is the culture within institutions is corrupt. How do you change it? You have to go in. You have to be in. You can't be, if you become sénateur, you're just going to be fighting with other senators in parliament. But if you're in the office magistrat, comme on diaspora, ou vini avec nouveau idée, ou vini avec, ou pas vini comme magistrat, ou ka travailler dans office magistrat. Et puis partager des idées pour changer, ou ka travailler dans office sénateur, pour pousser des lois, des legislation, and, and campaign, and those are the sort of activism. Because if you want to get rid of the politicians now, it has to be laws that prevent them from running for office again. It has to be laws that investigate their economic dealings. It has to be law, and people need to push them. We need activists on that level, not more politicians wanting a paycheck.
On this note, unfortunately, we have to finish this debate. This extremely interesting debate.
Conversation.
Conversation, discussion, we all love our country. We all want the best for our country. We all, striving our own ways, to make Haiti known, to make Haiti better, to make Haiti
understood,
small ways, through language, through development, through education, we all try our bit, and we're hoping for the best. So this was Anne, Guylaine. My name is Brother Prince. 509 Talk. I'll see you again.
Peace. Thank you.
Okay, cool.